Being Online, Chapter 2, The Evolution from Being Digital to Being Online. Bits were made from atoms during the information revolution before the internet. The rise of the internet is putting bits online. Being online is an unknown continent to be explored, just as North America once was. Many years ago, I made several trips to Xinjiang and Tibet and realized that they were of being online. Pucha is a small country nestled in the middle of the Tian Shan Mountains at the northern edge of the Tarim Basin. The country is also referred to as Kwisi and its airport as Kwisi Airport. When I drove south through the city along National Highway 3012, there was nothing green to be seen anywhere around me. Everywhere was void of any sign of human life. There I felt as lonely as a man on Mars. I felt like I had returned to a primordial state. There is nothing but wilderness upon wilderness. The road traversed many hills, making the drive difficult and forcing me at times to go as slow as 3 miles per hour. While I was driving at a snail's pace down the road, I suddenly lines winding wires carrying with them the possibility of any number of issues of electricity. That was the only thing in the area that had anything to do with human. I was taken aback to see those wires in such a desolate place. Today, as soon as people gather together and set up places to live, first thing they do is make sure electricity can reach them. Where there is electricity, there are people. And where there are people, there certainly is electricity. My reaction at the time was, electricity is truly amazing. The power line is the symbol of the electrification era. It is the connection to industrial civilization. It brings us closer and closer to civilization. After visiting Xinjiang, I traveled to civilization. It brings us closer and closer to civilization. After visiting Xinjiang, I traveled to an even more remote location in Tibet. Signs of human life are sparse on the road to Tibet, where the remoteness is so great it isn't even connected to the grid, and there are no power lines to be seen in most of the area. But on a roadside devoid of electric lines, I saw a surprise sign. Cell phone reception in 5 kilometers. That meant that just 5 kilometers down the road was a telecommunication base station, and a cell phone could access the internet. I could be online and reconnect with the world. Thanks to solar power, online civilization can reach places without power lines. This was yet another reminder for me that internet connectivity is blind. Even in the absence of the grid, you can access the online world of the internet. This is the future of the world civilization, being online. If you go back 30 years, the words being online were on the lips of the cutting-edge technologies of the day. But now everyone has heard being online so many times, they're practically sick of it. In 1978, Bill von Meiser founded a company called the Early Online Service Bulletin Board BBS. At the time, users could get online with 300 to 1200 baud rate dial-up modem. The source defined itself not as hardware or software, but as a company that could connect your personal computer to anywhere in the world. Von Meister later founded the Control Video Corporation, CVC, which provided online game Atari 2600. Not long ago, I found a promotional disc for America Online, AOL, in an old book I have. AOL's predecessor was CVC. AOL was the first to bring a wide range of services online. News stocks, weather, retail, photo sharing, search, email, real-time communications, and so on. And in 1998, when it announced it was buying out Netscape, less than 1% of American internet users had access to broadband. Although AOL and Time Warner's merger in 2000 was successful, USA Today in 2007 still ranked the founding of AOL fourth on a list of the 25 most important internet-related events in the preceding 25 years. After the World Wide Web, email, and the graphical user interface (GUI), numbers 5 and 6 were broadband and Google respectively. You can still feel the impact of AOL on some in society. Analyst Chelsea Manning, then known as Bradley Manning, leaked hundreds of thousands of American military and government classified documents to WikiLeaks, including the July 2007 footage of an American Apache helicopter firing on Iraqi civilians, revealing the truth about the grave situation in Iraq and Afghanistan and sparking protests around the world. Messengers to publicly assert their possession of such classified materials. This is not just the impact of AOL, it is the impact of being online. China also used to have several companies that included the term online in their name. For example, there were the websites Zhangguoshan Online and Zhejiang Old Hat. But whether these names are outmoded or not, online is now always at our side and has penetrated into every aspect of our lives. It is no longer possible to avoid the issue of entering the online world. Being online is the true nature of the internet. Before the internet era, there were a billion mouse clicks a day, but that was considered before the internet era. There were a billion mouse clicks a day, but that was considered a minor event that couldn't be translated into value for traditional software companies. After the internet put clicks online, clicks became a source of wealth for Silicon Valley. I first started thinking deeply about the idea of being online when I was working for Microsoft. As the world's most successful software company, Microsoft would put each of their products from Windows to Office through rounds of usability tests. Simply put, in order to make their products more user-friendly, Microsoft would observe representative clients using their products to carry out typical tasks in a user to use. To use a term from the internet era, usability test was meant to create a better user experience, or UX. Back when software was still installed using disks, Microsoft was already very focused on UX, and every product had a specialized team working on. The most common way of conducting usability testing brought average yet typical users into, especially Disney would even go into users' offices to observe their most authentic behavior. Then after extensive data analysis, they would discover product flaws, correct them, and ultimately release the product. This was once a common practice in the software industry and the only way to carry out UX in the offline world. Microsoft had thousands of engineers who worked exclusively on these tests, which were the only way to learn about users' interactions with their products. But this method had limits as to how many users it could evaluate and could only ever cover a small minority. Further, even though the usability teams could go to the users' offices, it couldn't very well follow them home and see how they use their products there. Microsoft eventually came to their realizing that the old way of product testing could cover only tens of thousands of people, while their products sold hundreds of millions, perhaps over billions of copies. They understood that even though they had been selling software for decades, they really didn't know how their products were used in the real world. This may sound strange, but it's true. Before the internet, Microsoft's great regret was that they had no way to know how most users actually use their products in a real life situation. In the internet era, a mindset formed from this traditional practice could prove fatal. If it meant someone else was closer to Microsoft did something very innovative. When Windows 95 had become widespread, so too had the use of the internet. When Microsoft designed Office 2003, they built in technology that would track usage data and send it back to Microsoft over the internet. This was the User Experience Improvement Program and was known internally at Microsoft by the acronym SQM, problem they wanted to enhance. And software would automatically collect the relevant data and send it to Microsoft. What made this method stand out was that it made data feedback a regular part of the software development process. MSN's product team used SQM to analyze system performance and understand user behavior, and Windows Vista became the first operating system to have been developed with SQM involved from the very beginning. According to the blog by Jensen Harris on MSDN.com, after Office 2003 was released, over 1.3 billion user sessions were collected, each session recording SQM for a specific period of time over the last 90 days of the data collection. Word alone recorded over 350 clicks. Microsoft was able, for the first time in software development history, to discover that the 5 most common commands are paste, copy, save, delete, and bold. These 5 clicks together accounted for 32% of the commands given in Word 3. That many users providing data from real life would have been inconceivable before the internet. I believe Microsoft did a half internet job. Today, you install their software, you're asked whether you want to join the User Experience Improvement Program. In other words, whether you have your usage data collected and sent to Microsoft. This is a big step forward because even though the company is using traditional software, it's still taking advantage of the internet to improve its software experience. You are getting many thousand or tens of thousand times as much data as before, and it's definitely coming from users, real working environments rather than being gathered. We've gotten used to this type of process today, thanks to Microsoft's innovation. When I first came across this, I thought it was strange because I didn't understand how users would be willing to have their every mouse click sent back to Microsoft. Harris's blog answered my question. When When I looked at the volume of the data, I was shocked. Can you guess how much usage data is gathered? Back when I was working there, back-end server systems were powerful enough to store all that data. An algorithm had to be designed to throw away a significant amount of data intelligently. Amazing how people all around the world are content to send in their data. But if we look at this SQM process more closely, we can see that it is overly complicated and bloated. Microsoft first needs to design which usage data it wants to collect, and then write extremely complicated code in order to collect the data online. This is a difficult process and has a cost. Unfortunately, the cost of collecting data for a traditional software company is very high. A click when using their software is fed back to the software itself when it carries out the task you want to first conduct research and add a layer of code. Fortunately, internet companies are online from the day they're founded. In the past, software was a purely offline product that was focused to be online. With the emergence of the internet, this was difficult, but the process was not complete. However, internet companies represent a major shift from software companies. For an internet company, just naturally need clicks from users to work. Thus, the precipitate of clicks naturally becomes data. This is why everyone pays so much attention to stored data personalized web services. Think about it. If you click on something on a web page, this data is automatically transmitted back to the company. Otherwise, the company would have no way of showing you what was clicked. On. The only thing they have to decide is for how long should this data be stored. Dealing with data is like an instinctual response for the internet company. It is just like when you instantly move your hand away from a cup boiling hot water. Google is a classic example of a cup boiling hot water. Google is a classic example of an internet company born in the dorms of Stanford University. The company has been giving the world pleasant surprises year after year since 1998. Today, it is considered the world's most used search engine. Google's success has long been seen as the result of processing information and optimizing advertising. But behind these success lies something much more important, something that everyone has overlooked: a countless number of clicks. Before the internet, the billions of mouse clicks that happened every day didn't matter very much. Microsoft adopted SQM. No one had yet turned clicks into gold, because at the time, all clicks were offline and simply dissolved in your local PC. The internet brought these clicks online. Clicking a hyperlink could allow a machine to know what you wanted more than you did. When Google took offline advertising that was done in newspapers and turned it in clicks into the source of wealth for Google. From then on, clicks had a new value, a new form, a new space. From clicks, the most influential internet company was born. Today, it's not just clicks. Our whole lives have gone online. Your computer can go online. Every click you make, every purchase you make online, every website you visit, every key you tap are all online. Your cell phone can go online. Your cell phones have GPS, meaning your location can be online. Cell phones also have motion sensors which allow for your every move to be recorded online. Your eyes can go online. In 2012, Google Glass was released, meaning everything you see could be online and be the part of the world. In other words, the whole world will look totally different in an online society. There was an article at the time that said Glass was requiring society to come up with a whole new set of rules and laws in our daily social life. There was ample logic to that argument. You can go online. Tesla, BMW, and Apple are all online. Tesla, BMW, and Apple are all trying to add smart technology to cars. The next time I go to Tibet, I believe I won't have to look for a sign saying when there is a cell phone signal, because the car will likely be connected to the internet the whole time with the recent deployment Starlink by SpaceX, which means I could be in contact with a colleague on the other side of the world to discuss business the whole trip. Your air conditioner can be online. The air conditioner has sensors that can check the temperature and airflow, which become data that you can view remotely. Eventually, your sleep will be able to go online as long as you have a wearable device. I could provide even more examples. The internet penetration into our lives can make mundane things around you brand new. In the future, 24 hours a day, whether you are sleeping or awake, you will be online every second. Being online is becoming the new essence of this era. Atoms become bits, bits go online. Bits were made from atoms during the information revolution before the internet. The rise of the internet is putting bits online. From a technological and physiological perspective, Being online first requires us to be linked, connected. In turn, connection is the result of being online. This kind of connectivity will penetrate all of society, changing industries' lives. Mouse clicks, World Wide Web, and online. Being online and connectivity couldn't exist without several seemingly minor, often overlooked technological advancements: the mouse, hyperlinks, and networked computers. These technologies are intertwined with the life of one person, Douglas Engelbart. In 1945, as World War II was drawing to a close, Engelbart was a radar technician for the U.S. Navy in the Philippines. While in the Red Cross Library on a small island, he first read Vannevar Bush's classic essay, As We May Think. It was inspiring and laid the intellectual foundation for Engelbart's later work. This essay also had a profound impact on the World Wide Web and information technology in general. In certain respects, its influence outstrips that of the Manhattan Project, which Bush himself had helped organize. After graduating from UC Berkeley in 1957, Engelbart entered the Stanford Research Institute and founded the Independent Reason Box with a red button on the right corner and two wheels that produced a positioning signal. Because there was an electric cord coming out of the box that looked like a mouse's tail, the device quickly picked up the nickname of mouse. Engelbart, in his 1968 patent application, assigned it to the lofty-sounding name of Display System X-Y, position indication of the mouse in San Francisco, and he received the patent in 1970. But at the time, no one knew what this small device was worth, and Engelbart didn't make a fortune from it. Years later, Stanford sold the technology to Apple Computer for $40,000. In 1972, Xerox Palo Alto's Research Center successfully developed a graphical interface microcomputer and early PC that they called the Alto. Some of the researchers at the facility had previously studied under Engelbart, and so they decided to attach the mouse to the microcomputer, which made the machine extremely easy to operate. In 1983, Apple emulated Xerox design and added an improved mouse to the Lisa microcomputer, a move that made the mouse well known. As the internet began to spread around the world, the mouse was in hot pursuit. Although most people believe the mouse to be only 20 or so years old, in reality it has already lasted 5 decades. Looking back on the last half century of technology development, this small invention had an outsized impact. The mouse is the second thing you plug into your computer following the keyboard, and it has made our ability to interact with computers much more convenient. Little wonder it was named by the Institute of Electrical Events in the 50 years since the birth of the computer. Yet most people know nothing about such details, just as most don't realize that almost every mouse in the world is made in China. These two seemingly important facts reveal the large gap between innovation and playing catch-up. A wooden box invented in America in the 1960s would become key contributions that Engelbart made to the development of the internet and computing. On December 9th, 1968, at the U.S. Fall Joint Computer Conference, prosecutor to the American National Computer Conference in San Francisco, Engelbart displayed the world's first mouse. In a 19-minute presentation, Engelbart became the first person to show the mouse expanding and shrinking the size of a window and controlling the text on the screen. A black dot on the screen later became the cursor on every computer screen. Engelbart was connecting to colleagues from about 30 miles away in Menlo Park via a modem. This was also the first remote video conference for Engelbart to speak with them. It was the first time clicking with the mouse on the underscored text would take you to another page. In other words, the first mouse click in front of a public audience also took place at the conference. It isn't a coincidence that the hyperlink and the mouse were displayed together for the first time by the same person. This presentation was turned by journalist Stephen Levy in his 1994 book Insanely Great, The Mother of All Demons. The impact was massive. It directly links to the development of the Xerox PC and Alto in the 1970s, the Apple Macintosh in the 1980s, and Microsoft Windows in the 1990s. Stanford University held the 30th and 40th anniversary conferences for this presentation in 1998 and 2008 respectively, probably the only conference in the world to celebrate the anniversary of a presentation. It's worth noting that the Stanford Research Institute was one of the 4 initial access points of the Advanced Research Project employees there. ARPANET internet later evolved into what we now call the mouse was the most important revolution for the information age. Now the mouse is being replaced by touchpads and touch screens, but we still need to click. If there were no mouse, there could have been no hyperlinks to jump to different pages, and everything that came out of those innovations would have been impossible. At the beginning, everyone was surprised by the ability to jump from one page to another simply by clicking on text. Over time, we become accustomed to being able to click on anything and that action taking us somewhere else. If you Google Pura tea, for example, and it doesn't immediately unveil a page showing the price of the tea and the best method of steeping, you'll think something is wrong with the website. Even my neighbor's 4-year-old child knows this from watching cartoons on his iPad. Online originally meant you were linked up to your computer. If you use a printer, you'll discover something very funny. The printer settings are displayed as online and offline. Online means that it is connected to a computer, and offline means it is not. Actually, people have talked about being online for a long time. There were theories about being forever online, everywhere online, and anywhere online. But the one thing they didn't address clearly was that being online required the internet. When I was writing this book, I connected my laptop to a 27-inch monitor and put my draft on the monitor so I could use my laptop screen to look up more information on the internet. Although the large screen was physically connected to my laptop, it wasn't online. The internet knew my browser was up on my laptop, but had no idea that there was a large monitor sitting there. The browser was online, but the monitor intertwined concepts, but they have clear differences. When people first discussed the internet, they were actually talking only about physical connectivity like fiber optics, cables, and other infrastructure. It's easy to confuse physical connectivity with being online, but they're not equivalent. In Chinese, we say 理理网. The Chinese translation of internet literally means interconnected network. But here, the internet refers to the physical connection, and the World Wide Web means online content. Because the World Wide Web accounted for more than 90% of the traditional internet's content. In the early days, the two concepts were often confused with each other. It should be said that the true use of the internet is to provide a platform that can make previously unconnected digital content go online. What is the most important thing on the web? It is yet another thing that people have overlooked: the ability of text to be clicked on, redirecting the user elsewhere, i.e. the hyperlinks. The internet connects devices, but hyperlinks also connect content. That is revolutionary, but it's only the first step of the internet. The greater meaning of the internet is that it can bring even more things online. The Internet of Things that people frequently talk about refers exactly to the internet's ability to put online more real-world items. Connectivity and being online may often be confused, but in reality they are two separate things. When you build a road, pedestrian, cars, and bicycles are connected from point A to point B, but the way you connect is hugely important. If you're walking, the road quality doesn't matter all that much because a small path and a concrete road will get you there at the same speed. The number of people you can connect this way is limited, and you cannot connect up with people all around the world. But if you're driving a car, things are different. The road quality becomes very important. At this point, you may start thinking about living in the suburbs, but without roads and cars, the suburbs wouldn't even exist. At the same time, you have more opportunities to meet with people from all around the region, the country, and the world. Today, you have the opportunity to access all the things in the world if you go online. Facebook can connect you with people from every corner of the globe. In that sense, connectivity is indeed being online. Connecting to the internet is like linking up to all the servers to a computer today. We are connecting to all the servers and all the people in the world. This example again shows that we should assume connecting is the same as being online. These are two totally different things. We exist originally in the offline world. Equipment, goods, and people are all offline. Traditional computing technology turned physical, offline things into line, thereby bringing tremendous changes to humanity that could someday outstrip the impact of humans first using fire. There are many online role-playing games. You need servers and computing power in order to support a virtual person in a game, and computing power comes from electricity consumption, which in turn produces carbon emissions, as much carbon emissions as raising a real human. The line between the offline and online world is getting blurred as offline gradually disappears and the world evolves into a completely online society. We are finally being online. It is difficult to define in one sentence what being online is, and it is too early to define it at this point in the discussion. Just as the word digital has two different translations. In Chinese, the same word has two different translations for different contexts. Each translation carries a different bias. Being online connects all of the servers in the world and you with everyone in different parts of the world. In the past, the most difficult translations for different contexts. Each translation carries a different bias. Being online connects all of the servers in the world and you with everyone in different parts of the world. In the past, the most difficult thing was getting data online. Now, wearable technologies are putting data online that was previously uncollectible. The essence of big data is bidirectional. Clicks being online resulted in the success of Google. This can be understood as the source of all inputs, links of search results going online. Your behavior, which is the source of all outputs, your clicks on links of search results, is going online. Early web portals could only display content from newspapers that had been put online. This was a one-way street. Gradually, websites began to prepare smart recommendations for you based on your reading habits, browsing data, and interaction information. Such recommendations were closer to the true application of big data, but it was still not enough. There's a news app seconds to calculate your interests and has intelligent recommendations based on that. This is based on the concept of the two-way nature of being online. You input your interests and hobbies, and the site will present you with related news and information. Creating a news engine without an editor. The app produces none of its own news, but within 2 years, were actually monthly users. In June 2014, it was valued at over $500 million, greater than the value of most traditional media outlets. This was due to its use of online applications and machine learning. TikTok is also from ByteDance. The technology to make targeted recommendations may partially explain why TikTok is popular in the United States. Data must be online, and the output process should be online too. YouTube, Hulu, and online data. YouTube is the world's largest video sharing platform. It is different from the other video websites because its sources are entirely online and its distribution is entirely online. The majority of YouTube uploaders are individuals, but some media companies like CBS and BBC, Vivo, and music service site, and other organizations have partnership programs with YouTube upload their own content onto the site. Hulu is an American video site that was launched by NBC and Fox. In March 2007, many people compare Hulu with YouTube, saying that the only difference is the former has copyrights for their videos and the later doesn't. In my opinion, Hulu, which has intellectual property rights to its content, is simply taking something that is IP rights, but it uses online videos as its source of content. If there were no YouTube, videos would only ever be made in the traditional way. First filming, then saving to a computer and editing, then posting online. This is certainly less valuable to society. On April 29, 2009, a pregnant English woman who YouTube and searched for videos on how to assist in a home birth. 4 hours later, the woman did start to give birth, and her husband successfully delivered the baby based on what he had learned on YouTube. If you compare Hulu versus YouTube, which one do you think has greater value to society? Of course, it's YouTube. Hulu is only putting traditional media online. Internet companies has greater value to society. Of course, it's YouTube. Hulu is only putting traditional media online. Internet companies often discuss user experience, but I believe that term has been overused. Every internet company cares about user experience, UX, but strangely, the internet is the only industry where UX is all that's worth talking about. According to that logic, as long as the software is well designed, that is, the UX is done well, then you won't have any other problems in reality. Other industries do care about UX, while they also need to solve other challenges as well. A very interesting example of this comes in automotive industry. The competition between car makers was intense, which led to rampant copycat. There was one company that decided to add an extra coffee cup holder in its design, a move that ended up becoming the main reason consumers decided to buy the bottle. For car buyers, comparable cars were the same in most cases, so having an extra cup holder with lens is unique in its essence, in as much as it differs from the offline experience. This is the key. The internet is different from traditional industries, not because it provides provides a good user experience, but rather because the experience of being online is a leap beyond traditional experience. Therefore, it's important not to put the cart before the horse. UX should not be a kind of something that must change with the times. Today, it's fair to say that the mouse, the movable cursor, were the best experience possible at the time. People can do many things using different tools, but sometimes using tools will result in a decrease in the ability to control. For example, if there are two circles on the screen, using your fingers allow you to accurately move back and forth between circles. This is because you're using your fingers directly instead of some device. But imagine if you used a chopstick to click on things. Your accuracy and speed would drop dramatically. In other words, using your finger to click on things is more accurate and faster than using something else. When there is an object that can enhance your abilities, you accurate and faster than using something else. When there is an object that can enhance your abilities, you will gain something but also lose something. But how are the mouse and the cursor connected? The mouse is one of the few physical add-ons when you move it in your hand. The cursor movement accuracy is on par with using your finger. For that reason, using a mouse isn't considered. That's what's amazing about the mouse design. The mouse follows Fitt's law, named after Paul Fitts, who has a physiologist at Ohio State University, which says the time required to move to a target area is a function of the ratio between the distance to the target and the width of that target. The ratio won't drop simply because a tool is added. Even though you're using a mouse, it doesn't reduce accuracy compared with your bare hands. The significance of Fitt's law is best described in the book User-Friendly: How the Hidden Rules of Design Are Changing the Way We Live, Work, and Play by Cliff Quang and Robert Fabricant, which was published in 2019. There are many things that Quang and Robert Fabricant, which was published in 2019. There are many things that could replace the mouse, but none is nearly as natural. More specifically, even though the mouse is something that isn't part of your body, it essentially works as an extension of your hand. To this day, I have yet to see a device that can compare with a mouse in this respect. Thanks to the mouse, we have clicks, a device that can compare with a mouse in this respect. Thanks to the mouse, we have clicks. Before the touch screen, the internet economy was basically the click economy. Before the internet, the hardest thing to do was to collect clicks on a computer and turn them into big data. But everything changed after the internet. Today's wearables are putting the mobile computer online as they put previously unrecordable data online. Endlessly talking about wearable computing, it is essentially no different from mobile computing. It's just mobile computing that's worn on your body. Currently, wearables have solved sensor problems, but not computing problems. For example, bracelets like Fitbit can measure your heart rate, thereby using sensors to solve a digitization problem. Digitizing data, just the beginning. As soon as the data goes online, then another revolution occurs. Today's wearables are revolutionary because they are connected to the internet. In August 17, 2013, the All Things D Tech website published an article headlined NBA Refs Wearing Google Glass. Based on an interview with Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey. Morey was integrated into live games, for example, by having the officials wear them and letting the TV audience see what they saw. Morey's response was simple: "This is a great idea." It's worth noting that Morey has a tech background. Later, the media asked him to confirm whether or not his commitment was a joke. And Morey actually went a step further, saying that NBA referees wearing Google Glass was absolutely an interesting idea. That was worth a try. This is a classic example. If you thought of wearables only as sensors, you're wrong. As soon as the referees start wearing Google Glass, whatever the refs see will suddenly be online. At that point, the impact of wearables on society will be completely different. Everyone will know what a ref knows. So if he blows his whistle when looking at another part of court, the fans will immediately be aware. If not only every ref, but also every player wears Google Glass, then everything the players see will be online. That would be an extremely rather being online. Today, virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality are hot topics. Magic Leap, once a company with buzz, claimed to be working on somatic reality. People get all entangled in what reality in general is. In Miami once, I joked with Ronnie Abovitz, founder and the CEO of Magic Leap, that it's all about online reality. Reality is being online with the assistance decades of virtual, augmented, mixed, and cinematic technology. The map, an evolution from analog to digital to online. Being online should be measured and discussed in units of centuries. Microsoft MapPoint and Google Maps. Maps are perhaps the world's most frequently used types of data. In China, the map had already you and the legend of him controlling a huge flood in the Yellow River Basin dating back to 4,000 years ago. According to the Zhao tradition, an ancient history compiled around 400 BCE, it was during this time in the Jia dynasty, 2070 BCE, that 9 images were recorded on 9 large cauldrons. Each image showed one of the 9 regions of Jia with their particular topographic features, rivers, mountains, grasslands, forests, even animals later because the Qin invaded the Zhao. The cauldrons were lost but were perpetuated by the ancient book, The Classic of Mountains and Seas, which emerged from this type of imagery. In the West, perpetuated by the ancient book, The Classic of Mountains and Seas, which emerged from this type of imagery. In the West, the oldest extant map consists of nearly 45,000-year-old ceramic fragments from Babylon. A piece about the size of a person's palm shows the mountains in the north from which the Tigris and the Euphrates originate, and the swamplands in the south through which these two rivers flow, with ancient Babylon in the middle. Maps have always held an important place in the development of human civilization. In 228 BCE, the Qin kingdom sacked the Zhao capital at Handan, destroying the Zhao kingdom. The Yan kingdom worried it would be next, so Crown Prince Dan sent an assassin, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of all of China. As a way to integrate himself with the Qin king, Jin bought him a map of a region of Yan, which the king viewed personally in the presence of Jin Qi, giving the assassin an opportunity to carry out his mission, which ultimately failed. From this, you can see how important maps were to ancient people. There is a saying from Zhao that goes, "The officer in charge of land shall report with a land map and evaluate land quality and conditions." This is perhaps the oldest reference to maps in Chinese writings. The Zhao Li also says, "Disputes over land are to be resolved by maps." Here, the economic value of maps in ancient times is clear. Maps are a measure of the society's knowledge in the early ages in the West because of the monopolistic role played by the religion and the loss of the knowledge from antiquity. The view that the world was round was under attack, and at the time, maps were no longer representations of geographical knowledge, but rather served as illusions for works of technology. This type of map almost always drew the earth lines, and they were never to scale. It was not until around the year 1000, when an enlightened way of thinking arose, that cartography and geography appeared as disciplines and began to impact other fields. Links between the old and new worlds were based on maps, and 1538 Dutch choreographer Gerardus Mercator made a map use a view of the earth from the vantage point of the North Pole, and there was a southern part of the map that was labeled Unknown Southern Continent. This map was made toward the middle of the Age of Discovery. Shortly after Ferdinand Magellan circumnavigated the globe, it was the summation of all human knowledge of the world's geography. Remote sensing, GPS, and navigation systems have resulted in the rise of digital maps. I remember a digital map that came on disk and could display far more information than was available on a normal map on paper. You could use any scale to zoom in and out, thereby making data that was legible only to experts available in a straightforward image. Digital map available in a straightforward image. Digital map disks used to be an important business for Microsoft, which sold an astronomical number of copies that year. But the map disks were quickly surpassed because in 2005, Google launched Google Maps on an online map. From then on, no one ever thought about maps on disk again, and the companies an online map. From then on, no one ever thought about maps on disk again, and the companies that made those digital maps were soon forgotten. Few people know today that at one point, Microsoft sold MapPoint on Amazon for $299.95. This lost out not simply because Google Maps was better or the data was more accurate, rather it was because Google Maps on maps were no longer the same thing they once were. In 2008 came news that caused quite a stir. Google had launched its own satellite to take photos for its maps, meaning Google was now gathering its own mapping information for many people. The first time they saw the satellite images of Earth was on Google Maps. Actually, that news item wasn't accurate. The satellite was launched by resolution images from 2 geospatial image companies, Digital Globe and GeoEye. These 2 companies merged in 2012 and continue to provide a considerable amount of data, including satellite images to Google, which simply made this data available online. Interestingly, Digital Globe spent only $453 million to buy out GeoEye in and of itself. In that case, where does the value and impact of putting that data online come from? You can tell from 2009 Time magazine story that listed the top 10 discoveries on Google Maps. This top 10 list included possible evidence of a submerged landmass that was thought to be the lost continent of Atlantis, missiles fired during military exercises, and an airplane graveyard full of mothballed B-52s and stealth bombers. These online high-resolution images made it possible for anyone with a connection to the internet to search the earth with a fine-tooth comb. Many things were discovered by online communities of hobbyists that had never been seen before. It was this type of community power, online communities of hobbyists that had never been seen before. It was this type of community power that rediscovered the value of maps. Traditional research institutes had no way of reviewing all 230,000 square miles of images produced by Digital Globe every day. Nokia tried to learn from Google methods. In 2008, Nokia spent $8.1 billion on Chicago-based Navtec. Their logic was simple. A cell phone had to have maps. This was not a bad idea, but still Nokia failed. Nokia didn't put a map online. Instead, they just installed a map on the cell phone. All they did was take an offline map and put it on a phone. Then they promoted cell-based guidance system, including walking guides. After all, with only 2G, it would make sense just to focus on guidance systems. Nokia didn't understand that the major trend of this era is being online, and guidance systems can be offline, but they compromise only a small part of the usage of map services. In November 2012, when Nokia launched a new brand called Here, Navtec, once valued at the $8.1 billion, I hadn't brought up Here, I bet no one would remember it once existed. What Google did was take someone else's data and put it online. This data produced even more data after it was used. It wasn't a case of new maps that defeated old maps. It was online that defeated offline. This was a sign of changing times. It is difficult, but putting it online can. Offline data isn't likely to be the most competitive, but online it can be. And while it is not likely that offline data will have a huge impact, online data does. Being online is the cause and transformation is the effect. Any minor insignificant thing that goes online can have the effect. Any minor insignificant thing that goes online can have a massive transformative impact. When I was in elementary school, there was a stand positioned beneath the traffic lights. A traffic officer would sit in the stand to make sure traffic flowed smoothly. What the traffic officer did was to manually change the traffic lights based on his visual observation of traffic flow from another direction. Over time, the technology improved, and this role was automated. Using closed-circuit television cameras, traffic flow controls, cameras that catch red light violators, speed sensors, and other digitized methods, the function of the traffic stand. I once told a mayor, I don't like the term smart cities. I prefer data city because whether something is smart or not is too subjective. But this isn't enough. The data hasn't been put online completely. If city planners want to do traffic planning, they usually make a new design by looking at the data of the previous year. The data used to improve traffic after that because it isn't actively online anytime, anywhere. In the past, when you brought something in a store, everyone knew that the way things were displayed was based on many considerations and the arrangement would affect sales. At the time, it was very important for people with experience to determine the placement of products, but Taobao has the skill to place that many products. Only data can do that for you. Actually, Taobao's appearance changes every day, and its visitors are presented with different pages because it uses the data from the previous day to rearrange the display of products on each page. Each of your clicks affects what you see on your pages the next time you log on Taobao. What you see on your pages the next time you log on Taobao. If there is a special situation, we can temporarily change the prices and arrangements of products. It is very easy to do because we have ready access to the data. But as Taobao grows and its number of users increases, merchants need to adapt in real time. This need drives up the demand for data. It requires keeping the data online, ensuring it flows freely at times. Actually, Amazon treats its online product placement in a very similar way. This is the difference between something that is driven by online data and something that simply relies is important. Digitization is the foundation of being being online. The most successfully digitized things in the world have to do with multimedia. In the past, the best digitized product was newspapers printed digitally. The Founder typesetting system, Founder is a leading digital system providing for newspaper publishing in China, was very popular newspaper composition instead of traditional lead blocks. This was a digitizing process. When it came about, the whole traditional printing industry disappeared. However, the process still ended up producing a print newspaper. Though everything in the process was digitized, the end product was a physical replica, a paper newspaper. This is a step back. For printing newspapers weren't actually all that different, but at least at the beginning of the process, the newspaper is digitized. Now that there is the world of being online, the next step for the news media itself is not hard to imagine. Before the laser printing process, it would have been impossible to make the leap to being online. Even though they are both impossible to make the leap to being online. Even though they are both related to computing, digitization and being online are two different realms. It's the difference between Founder and Google. Kodak, Sony digital photos and digital music. Another product that relied on digitization to revolutionize an industry and the two different realms. It's the difference between Founder and Google. Kodak, Sony digital photos and digital music. Another product that relied on digitization to revolutionize an industry and depended on being online to generate value is the digital camera. In December 1975 at Kodak headquarters in Rochester, New York, Steven Sasson became the first person in history to hold a digital camera and take a picture with it. Sasson was among the first group of electrical engineers Kodak hired in the early 1970s. A break from the company's practice of almost exclusively hiring chemical and mechanical engineers, Sasson's dream was to take pictures. In 1978, he was awarded the patent for the digital camera. The patent expired in 1995. 3 new digital camera models from Casio, Canon, and Logitech brought the price down by around $1,000. Mr. Sasson was awarded the National Medal of Technology and Innovation at the White House ceremony in 2009. Digital camera. Even if you're a hobbyist and actually view film photography more as work for art collections and not as a regular consumer product. In this respect, there no longer exist film cameras on the market, or they exist in a niche or resale market. Kodak once made their own digital cameras and added Wi-Fi capability, which counts as an improvement, but that was not a revolution, since it only made it easier to download those onto a computer. The new revolutionary product in camera is the digital camera on smartphones, which can connect to the internet at any time. An online camera completely changed the whole nature of photography. Now, when you go out to eat, it doesn't matter whether it is a first grader or a 45-year-old, you'll see all sorts of people take out their phone, or a 45-year-old, you'll see all sorts of people take out their phones, take pictures of their food and post them on social media. Online cameras have sparked normal people's interest in creating and sharing. That is why a site like Instagram could become so popular around the world. In January 2012, the 131-year-old Kodak company filed for bankruptcy. From the first digital camera to bankruptcy took less than 40 years. Today, Sasson's vision has been realized, but Kodak practically does not exist. This shows the difference between Kodak and Instagram. Music went through a similar process, from cassettes to CDs and to MP3s. It has become much easier for us to access music. This followed the process of technologies appear, and before they have even had time to find their niche, quickly disappear. For example, the portable CD player hadn't yet been perfected when it was already being replaced in November 2012. Japan's Dr. Serkan Toto tweeted, "Sony is now selling Japanese music on iTunes. I thought this day would never come." 8 years before, because of the competition between the iPod and the Sony Walkman, Sony Music refused to provide any Japanese artists to iTunes. That Sony finally released its catalog not only reveals that the difference between the Walkman and iTunes, but also demonstrates the advantage of being online over just digital. That is the difference between Apple and Sony. In the history of human development, many things are just digital. That is the difference between Apple and Sony. In the history of human development, many things have evolved, but very few things have persisted. From a utilitarian perspective, this is similar to the principle of the survival of the fittest. Things like glasses, watches, and necklaces haven't been replaced because they have been adopted like natural extensions, and there needs to be enough time for it to evolve to be part of everyday life. Certainly, we ourselves need a suitable amount of time to properly understand it. Being online is a brand new continent. In 2006, the famous mathematician Xing-Tun Yao became embroiled in controversy surrounding the Poincare conjecture. Henry Poincare was a Frenchman, is but one of many. Every every simply connected closed three-manifold is homeomorphic to the three-sphere. In May 2000, the Clay Mathematics Institute listed the Poincare conjecture as one of its 7 Millennium Prize problems. According to the prize rules, anyone who published a proof of any of the 7 problems in a mathematics journal and allowed that proof to Alice. Perlman and his new continent. In early June 2006, the Xinjiao News Agency reported that Harvard professor and Fields Medal recipient Xintong Yao had announced at the Math Research Center of the Chinese Academy of Sciences that based on the work of American and Russian scientists Zhiping Zhu, a professor at Sun Yat-sen University, and Hao Dong-Kao, an associate professor at Hsinchu University, had proven that Poincare conjecture. Their proof had been published in a special June issue of the U.S.-based Age Journal of Mathematics and took up more than 300 pages. The article was titled "A Complete Proof of the Poincare and Geometrization Conjectures." The article was titled "A Complete Proof of the Poincare and Geometrization Conjectures." The application of the Hamilton-Perlman theory of the Ricci flow. In late June, at an international conference in Beijing, Yao gave a keynote address on the Poincare conjecture and for the first time in public announced that the conjecture had been completely proven. There were more than 1,000 people in the audience, including the renowned physicist Stephen Hawking. In late July, the Wall Street Journal ran an article by Sharon Bailey in which she quoted 1962 Fields Prize winner John Milner saying that Yao's completely proven statement had thrown a monkey wrench into the process of sorting out who actually had proved it. In August 28, 2006, the New Yorker published an article by Columbia University professor of journalism Sylvia Nassar and David Gruber about this Poincare conjecture controversy, titled Manifold Destiny. Nassar was the author of A Beautiful Mind, the biography of mathematics genius John Nash, which was later made into a mosaic. Wei Yuding, who was a member of Chinese Academy of Sciences and head of the Peking University Mathematics Research Institute, wrote a post on his Sina blog entitled Poincare Confusion. He wrote, "Proof Xintong Yao is a widely recognized global authority on geometry. There is no way he did not know that many mathematicians around the world believed Russian mathematics." The announcement was at odds with a great many of his colleagues' beliefs. However, Perlman had never met the requirement of the Clay Institute to publish his proof in a peer-reviewed journal. He spent 8 years researching this 100-year-old math problem, and then between November 2002 and July 2003 published 3 drafts of papers on rsziv.org, a website for math and physicist thesis. This site is maintained by Cornell University's library and looks like a simple and crude website. Importantly, its articles are not peer-reviewed. In May 2006, Bruce Kleiner and John Lott, originally from the University of Michigan, published an article, Notes on Perlman's Papers. The same on RZIV. The same month, a panel of 9 mathematicians agreed to award the Fields Medal, the mathematics equivalent of the Nobel Prize, to Perlman for his solution to the Poincare conjunction. In June 2006, International Mathematical Union Chair John Ball personally traveled to St. Petersburg medal, but Perlman rejected this offer. Later that month, Nassar and Gruber made a special visit to St. Petersburg in preparation for writing Manifold Destiny. They reported in the article that Perlman said he is not a math hero, and if everyone knows the proof is correct, then there is no need to have any other means of recognition. In July, John Morgan and Gang Tian published a 473-page draft on RZIV titled The Ricci Flow and the Poincare Conjunction. In an interview of May 2006, Morgan said that Perlman deserved the Fields Medal because he had solved the Poincare conjecture. In August, at the International Mathematicians Union Conference held in Madrid, Perlman was awarded the Fields Medal but didn't attend the conference. He was the first and is the only person to ever have rejected a Fields Medal. In September, notices of the AMS, the Journal of the American Mathematical Society, published a long review article by Deputy Jackson about the whole episode, in which he quoted James Carlson of the Clay Mathematics Institute as saying, "According to the rules of the award, the recipient is not necessarily going to be the first person who publishes the result in a journal. In reality, Perlman chose to post his result on RZIV rather than submit it to a publicly circulated journal. It was an affirmation of the internet. This outcome is something that could never have happened before. Because of academia's peer review principle, scientists might not have given credence to Perlman's results since it was neither peer-reviewed nor published in an academic journal, but because Perlman posted his article online, the whole whole world could know how he done his proof, and it didn't need to be peer-reviewed any longer. Additionally, all work done subsequently on the conjuncture would just turn out to be taking Perlman's work a step further. In December 2006, Jiping Zhu and Haidong Cao published a revised version of their article in the Asian Journal of Mathematics, in which they concurred with Morgan and T's successful solution to the conjuncture. In March 2010, Grigori Perlman was given the Millennium Prize Problem Award. However, he didn't go to Paris to attend the award ceremony in June. In July, Perlman formally rejected the $1 million prize, saying the money meant nothing to him. According to its Wikipedia entry, when it was launched, RZIV helped spark the academic open access movement, and now it is commonplace for mathematics and scientists to post articles, therefore, before sending them to professional journals. I don't understand mathematics at all, but I believe that through his controversy, we can see the power of the internet. New continent of knowledge. The scale of goods and things has risen exponentially because of being online. The scale of thinking is also being transformed as computing goes online. The Encyclopedia Britannica was once the world's largest book, and it was the most famous and most authoritative encyclopedia, one of the world's three major encyclopedias. It was born in the 18th century during the Scottish Enlightenment. The creative process that took 3 years. In 1771, a 3-volume set was published. From 1788 to 1797, the third edition had grown massively to 18 volumes, plus 2 appendices, which brought the page count up to more than 16,000 pages. The average person couldn't read all those pages in their lifetime. Today, the scale of the Encyclopedia Britannica entry is 38 times that of Britannica. More importantly, Wikipedia is a free and open web-based encyclopedia that is the 5th most popular website in the world. Entries are entitled and written by people in every country around the world. The site's use of wiki technology means any person from any background and any country can edit an entry. An offline encyclopedia can possibly compete with that online. One piece of common sense that is closely related to your life but has turned out to be untrue is the idea of the 8-hour workday. Now, you no longer know when you're working and when you're living. The line between the two is blurring thanks to online products like email, collaborative working, and instant messaging services. We're doing more than what we thought for when cameras, instant messaging services. We're doing more than what we thought for when cameras still used film. It would have been impressive for a normal consumer to shoot dozens of rolls. Only a photographer, hobbyist who travel frequently would be able to do that. But with the advent of digital cameras, the number of photos taken exponentially in an instant. Taking 100,000 photos in a year is now normal. After cell phone cameras became commonplace and photography therefore went online. Those 100,000 photos on your computer, out of which you occasionally select a few to print out and put on your nightstand, also grew exponentially. By putting them online instantly, you can now share them with thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people at once. Access the computing power of a 10,000 person corporation. A company that uses cloud computing properly can, even if it has only one employee, access computing power of a 10,000 person corporation. Thanks to being online, cost, access to users, and speed have all changed. Speed creates value, innovation. In the book, The Facebook Effect, there is a case study showing how one person can impact the whole world. A Colombian civil engineer named Oscar Morales was fed up with the horrors brought on his compatriots by drug traffickers and the government's weak response. At that time, the FARC, a narco-terrorist group, had taken more than 700 people hostage, shocking the nation and giving people the feel. Facebook and discovered that there were no FARC-related groups, activities, or posts. So he formed the first anti-FARC Facebook group, which had the slogan, "No kidnapping, no lies, no massacres, no FARC." He named the group A Million Voices Against FARC. As more and more people joined the group, he called for a nationwide anti-FARC protest. The result was amazing. Not only did people all around Colombia participate, but members of the diaspora in Miami, LA, Buenos Aires, Madrid, Paris, and other cities also joined in. The result was an unprecedented global protest launched online. On February 4, 2008, an estimated 10 million Colombians in nearly 100 cities marched in protest. 2008, an estimated 10 million Colombians in nearly 100 cities marched in protest, with nearly 2 million people in cities around the world joining them. No one would have guessed that this massive protest movement was launched by a frustrated young man sitting in his bedroom posting an impassioned article on Facebook. Overnight, it shook the world. That is the speed of being online. Speed is the foundation does not serve to create new ideas that can never become a reality. Rather, it helps you turn new ideas into a service that can be beneficial to 10 million people, thereby creating value. Someone once said that the speed at which a new technology is adopted by 50 million people reveals the extent of its penetration. Electricity took 50 to 60 years to reach 50 million people, but today it can take users. That is the power of being online. Encyclopedia Britannica has already become unimportant to most people when the journals Nature and Science also lose their importance, just as the steam engine is no longer as important to us today. When researchers post the data from their experiments directly online instead of sharing the results only by publishing papers, society will take a step forward. Instead of sharing the results only by publishing papers, society will take a step forward and the world will become more beautiful. Being online is a new continent. We need to explore it more deeply.